Welcome back to Bacon Pancast, featuring Jake's Meatloaf. This is an Adventure Time podcast, and we are Jake's Meatloaf. I'm Tulip.
I'm Nick/Crowned Cryptid.
I'm Chan/The Human.
I'm Tipsy.
We support the ongoing actors and writers strikes, and we do not currently endorse any streaming service for any reason. The Star.
Dude, I have to come out of the gate and say, like, I think these were absolutely my two favorites, and also like two of my favorite things I've ever watched in my entire life. I had so much fun. These were so good. I loved them so much. Like, I have so many things. I just have to say this, like, before we get anywhere. I was wrong. I admit it, and I'm upset about it. I'm very upset about it, but you know what?
Yeah,
it's
I mean, weren't we joking? Weren't we joking last time about, what if that baby Finn is the one in the intro? That'd be silly, haha.
I really thought, okay, I thought that they were gonna go to young Finn and Jake world, okay?
Okay, but
then they were gonna
Yeah, but judging by what happened in all of these episodes, if they went to young Finn and Jake world, they'd have probably destroyed it.
It's for the best, yeah. You're right. But, I just had to say it. I was like, oh my god, they're going to copy Fionna and Cake's personalities. It's going to be crazy. But I was wrong. Anyway. First of all, like right away, we open on, like, Marceline, right? And she's running, and she finds Simon. I had to, like, rewind the episode, because I was like, That's like a look-alike, right? I was like, what the fuck? It's just his shriveled, like, and like bitten 1,000 times. I'm just like, this is horrifying, Oh my god. It just. Oh.
I don't know. My thoughts on these two episodes, like, I think the last two were better, significantly. There's using, like, I think I'm starting to think that the TV-14 rating is a weakness of this miniseries, because Adventure Time could do horrifying stuff in the original show. It could do stuff equally horrifying to what it did here, but it was less gratuitous about it. Like, if you look at this episode, there's so many corpses. It opens up on Simon's corpse. And then if you look at the second episode, it does some stuff that's horrifying in a sort of mean-spirited way. And I think that's terrible.
Well, I'm all for it. But, I mean, my take, though, because I saw somebody on Twitter just said, like, they totally couldn't have done this without the TV-14 rating. And I'm like, no. They could show as many skeletons as they want in a TV PG show, I would think. It's really just, like, the vampire biting and blood. That is, like, a 14 upgraded thing.
I do think Simon's, like, mangled corpse is something they might have not been able to show so explicitly before.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to show the flesh corpses in the same way. They'd have probably been asked by CN to turn them into skeletons. But also, they just never... They could have shown skeletons in the main show. They just never chose to, because that they didn't think it would be a good idea writing-wise. And, like... I don't necessarily think that having a load of terrifying stuff is a good writing choice.
We'll agree to disagree, because I loved it.
Lots of people loved it, and I felt insane because of my reaction to these episodes, because people were like, oh, this is incredible. But what was interesting is more people were talking about the first episode than the second one by a significant margin.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, it's probably my bias of me, I feel like I need to rewatch The Star, because I feel like the Jerry episode gave me so much of what I want that, like, The Star didn't even happen. Like, that episode feels irrelevant to my emotions, because I thought Jerry was so interesting compared to it.
Your reactions are completely wild to me.
Yeah, I think I'm closer to Tipsy's end of things. I said last time that The Winter King was my favorite episode so far, and these two haven't reached those heights for me.
Yeah, like the Winter King has all sorts of highs and lows. It's a lot of fun. It's a bit fucked up. And once you've had that, to have more episodes that's just kind of like that, oh great, you have another doomed world, oh look, you have another doomed world. It's like, I was hoping that the multiverse would be a bit more interesting than that.
I mean, that's fair. I could see that. And that's kind of a good thing of why this, like, is a miniseries, I guess.
Yeah.
But the extent to which the Star world is doomed, like, after the end of this episode is ambiguous, I think. We can get to that later.
Yeah. There was some critical... there were definitely some critical elements outside of, because there's, like, how I feel about it as an Adventure Time fan, which is the first episode I adored, and the second episode I had... that most of it was fine, but there was one scene in there that I was absolutely disgusted by, which has recolored how I picture this entire miniseries and its role in the Adventure Time lore. So I'm glad that this is a mini-series, because if something like that happened in the main show, well, it wouldn't happen in the main show in the same way, and it would have been better written. So yeah, like there are some things in here that are really good writing-wise that they wouldn't have been able to do in the main show, but some things in here that they wouldn't do in the main show just because it would be a bad thing to do. That's my take.
Curious. Well, I mean, we should talk about more details about the episode so we can
get
into it.
So like, they got attacked by vamps. They made some makeshift stakes that they're really bad at using. When PB showed up in her peppermint tank.
I love that tank.
Fiona really gets, like, the short end of the stick, doesn't she? Because Cake has these... because you can see, like, already, Cake has these magical powers that allow her to do these amazing things, and Fiona's just a normal human. She hasn't got any of Finn's abilities and experience, so it's not like she became a good fighter when she became her normal self.
I like seeing Simon make the steak really fast, because I sometimes forget, like, yeah, he had to deal with all these vampires back in the day, too. Like, yeah. I think about Apocalypse Ew, and you always think about, like, the goo creatures.
We haven't specifically, I think, heard about him dealing with vampires, but he would have had to. I mean, they were around at those times.
Yeah. Well, I have a lore question. Are vampires, like, did they always exist sort of thing, or did they come about because radiation?
I don't think we know that for sure, but I feel like it's more likely that they always existed.
I agree. I agree with Tulip. It's implied that the vampires... I believe it's heavily implied that the vampires existed well before the Mushroom War, and that... they came out of the dark. It's like Wizard City. The vampires existed just like Wizard City. They came out of the dark because humanity had ended, so they believed that it was their time to shine.
Epic.
I never thought about that, actually. It's interesting.
The first joke of this episode that I really like is when Cake is introducing herself to PB, and she says, "The name's Cat. Cake." And then she spells cake with her arm, but she spells it wrong.
Yeah, that was a really good joke.
I'm dyslexic. I didn't notice.
That's fine.
I didn't notice either until my second viewing, which is she spelled it CAEK.
When I saw the candy tank, I was like, "Oh my god, another alternate PB!" Oh my god! I mean, I'm happy. It was just like, here we go again. And then
I was not expecting to see a version of Princess Bubblegum in Vampire World, and I'm so glad we did, because it was such a treat seeing, some of the scenes with her and Marceline in this episode. It's like they've both been like on Princess Bubblegum's side, she is at her utmost survivor type of person. Also, Huntress Wizard is a human. What's the deal with that?
I actually talked about this with someone. I was like, oh, is there an implication here that, like, she used to be a human? Because this is, like, just, like, an kind of alternate if, like, Simon wasn't around. But then, like, Martin was there, too. And I'm like, oh, so maybe it's an alternate timeline. But
I think it's more like how, Farm World has, like, a human version of Choose Goose. I don't think that's saying anything about Choose Goose in the regular timeline. I think it's just, like, certain personalities come up again. Maybe the soul that, was reincarnated into Huntress Wizard as some kind of freaky plant thing in Ooh just was a human in this one, because humans aren't totally dead in this universe.
Yes, That's what I sort of arrived at eventually, but someone did ask, like, why is she human if this is, like, supposed to be the same timeline, kind of? And I was like, oh, but then Martin's also, like, his normal age. But then Martin also disappeared into Stardust, so, like, if Martin showed up anywhere, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But it was really fun to see them. Also, I think I joked with like 4 separate people, like, haha, what if they stole baby Finn? And then he was actually, I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, we talked about that last week. We thought that there was a possibility that baby Finn would join him. And yeah, they did kidnap him. And Simon holding him was very cute. They were very protective of baby Finn.
Also, like, all the background shots of him petting Cake, like, on her belly, I was losing my mind. It was so cute.
Can I? They left him in the tank, right? They left baby Finn in the tank.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I think by now they also started the flashes to Marshall Lee and Gary going to see his mom, and also, like, I love how much like Hunted she is, like, obviously, but it's like, it's so funny.
Yeah. It's funny seeing like all her weird poses and stuff like that. Like, I forgot that that's how Hudson is. Like,
it's so
he's
uncomfortable,
so bendy, so strange.
Yeah, but it's so, it's always fun. I'm like pointing at a bunch of people at the party, like, oh my god, I know who that is. Or like characters I don't know who they are, I still know like that they're a character, and I'm like staring at them like, who are you? It's really fun. One of the people at the party is Tiny Manticore. I'm like, that's an interesting choice. That's so funny.
And you can tell that, like, this is interesting because Marshall, when Marshall made the deal with his mother to have the lemon carbs view Gary Prince's stuff, he promised that he would go back to his responsibilities for whatever business they have, even though he absolutely hates it. And Gary didn't know that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole gumball plot is basically the sort of, it's showing Gary interacting and having a great time explaining his ideas to all of these investors, whilst Marshall's having the worst possible night of his life because his mother is essentially humiliating him in front of everyone else.
Yeah, and obviously the parallels between them and PB and Marceline are like, so I love how they did that. And like Gary having to give up like his dream and his responsibility to be with Marshall, and he's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm like, oh my god, it's just like PB.
I really want to dive into that. I really want to dive into the parallels of those two scenes because it's very difficult to discuss them separately or one by one.
You talk about the end of the episode thing?
Yeah.
Well, we're not there yet.
we can do that after, right?
We'll
get there.
We'll get there for sure. Martin being here is interesting. He didn't do much in the episode, but it's just like his presence is impactful.
He winked and died, which is kind of exactly what he did in the main series.
Yeah, but like Martin here is like a good person. He's legit. He's sincere.
It kind of seems that way, right? But I feel that it's unclear because he also dies horribly, and I kind of get the feeling that they wanted us to be like, haha, yeah, he deserves it because he's Martin. But he was acting like fine in the episode.
I didn't feel like he was any different than he normally. Like, I know Martin as a character is kind of scummy, but he also, like, he's a complicated man.
Come on,
like, he cares about people.
He said, "Pay it forward." Since when would Martin say that? Let's be real. And I think one of my friends, Mary, she pointed out something hilarious, which is that this is a good Martin, and he died. He died because he helped Fiona protect people, whereas the Martin that we know would have stayed in that tank and ran off with it.
Yeah. Immediately.
He would have stayed in that tank even if PB ordered him to stop and drove off with it and left them all there to die. But it's kind of tragic because you have this nice version of Martin who Fiona doesn't even realise is an alternate version of her mother. And maybe she hasn't met her mother. Oh my god.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
Like, she takes his jacket, which people talked about in the intro, and I have to say, congrats on everyone who thought it was Martin's jacket. You're correct.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't comprehend what context. Like, I would have just thought they would have found, like, a skeleton of Martin or something like that and took it, like, just from how the intro scene looks, because it was clearly his same jacket, but it's like, how are they going to fit Martin into this? And they just kind of did. It's like, okay, there he is. Like, there's some fan service.
And Martin got along with both baby Finn and the adult Fiona in a way that he never got along, that no alternate version of him ever got along with Finn. Though we do have Farmworld Martin, who appeared to be an okay father, if a bit of a deadbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's really tragic, because you have a good version of Martin, and he dies because he's good. He dies because he's not a scumbag.
Yeah, and I saw Jagm's post about this episode, which I might be mentioning a couple times, because I read that, and he noticed some things that I did not. He said that, like, Finn might just not exist in Vamp World, because, like, if the humans never went to the islands, which... I don't know. That was the part I hadn't considered. I just had kind of assumed that Martin's backstory was largely the same, and maybe the Guardian protects the islands from vampires. But the vampires were the problem before they even left to go to the islands. So who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it seems like Huntress is a human as well. Why isn't... She could easily be a mutant. She could easily just be a mutant Huntress wizard. But she and Martin are both there, and they're both human. PB is the only mutant that we see in the episode, and a bunch of the zombies that the vampires use are also humans.
There is a scene where they briefly, like, drive the tank past the dead body of Billy. And Billy is a mutant, right?
There was so much Billy corpse in this episode. Like, poor Billy.
I know. Well, that had me, like... You know, I saw PB, and then I remembered, oh yeah, PB kind of existed, you know, a long time ago as a Watto Gum or whatever. So that didn't bother me. But when I saw the Billy cameo, I was like, wait, but there are humans here. Does that make sense? I don't know. It probably does. It's like, it's fine. I just was confused for a second.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, you know, they always seemingly accidentally think everything out so well. But, like, there's, stuff like that in this episode where it's, like, the connections aren't really clear. But ultimately, we're probably not supposed to be thinking about it as much as we are. But also, like, every other episode has had us think about things. So it's, like, it makes sense for us to think. But, you know, I feel like it's maybe just whatever. Like, Martin's here. The Huntress Wizard's there. You know, it's just, there they are.
I paused on a frame in the tank, and I was like, if you showed... I wish I had the picture. I can probably go back and get it, but I was like, if you showed this to me 10 years ago, I would have been like, that's the most fake shit I've ever seen in my life. It was like baby Finn petting Cake, Fiona on the side, then, like, Simon's there, and Martin, and then, like, PB, and I'm like, this is fake as fuck, but it's real. It's so bizarre.
Imagine seeing a screenshot of... Yeah, you're right. Imagine seeing a screenshot of that in 2014.
Yeah, like, I'd be... I'm like, why is Finn a baby and Fiona's just there, and, like, why is Simon there too? If it's like, what is this? Like, oh my god, that'd be craziest leak ever that I'd never believe.
Was Scarab in this episode at all?
Yeah, very briefly, yes, because, you know, his thing more so happens in the next one, but we did just get the scene where he kind of got the rug pulled out from under him.
He gets taken away.
For not doing his job right.
Yeah. We'll get to that.
We will. Were we going to forget it before we reach that part?
That's a big part of the next episode.
What happens
it's like
later,
the whole B plot.
Okay, so what is the next section? What is the next section? Because I can't remember the order of the events in this episode. I just remember a big swarm of everything.
Well, this is where they assault the they assault the... Well, actually, I guess Marceline shows up first, murders people. I love the PB line where she's like, "I'm not a loser."
Yeah, she, like, cares so much what Marceline thinks of her.
Yeah. I mean, or you could also say people in general. It's like the, like, you know, she but like I'm sure Marceline, like in particular.
Yeah, PB is at her most unhinged masculine self in this. Like she is her worst self in this episode, but she's still trying. And I find that interesting. Even though PB is her worst self, she's still trying to save the world. But she also doesn't care for all of the little people inside of it.
You don't think she cares for the little people?
No. Like she said that she stopped for the cat.
Duh.
She stopped for the cat. But she does, I feel like she does see Huntress and Martin as, like, useful. As good soldiers at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, I love the scene where Fiona was asking about ways to kill vampires, and Huntress was like, "Yeah, dude, I've done it."
That.
That was
like,
great.
Can a vampire get a splinter and have it go through their bloodstream and get to the heart? Yeah, dude, I've done that.
That is the most Finn the Human moment that Fiona has had in this miniseries so far.
Yeah, it was cute. But yeah, then they infiltrate. And Marceline has the coolest outfit I've ever seen her.
Their tank got flipped over by, like, a stake trap in the ground.
Why did they use a stake trap? They could have used anything, and they just used... The vampires made a stake trap.
Well, I guess it's like... This is the thing. I was confused by this, and I have to think about it a little bit to come to a conclusion. But it's probably something maybe they set up, or other vampire hunters set up, but they happened to run into it accidentally.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting thought. Like, it wasn't even... I mean... I guess they could have repurposed it like a vampire hunter did it, because they clearly knew about it, because they're the ones who cut the rope that set it off. I'm like, that is weird that they're messing with stakes.
And then we have the amazing appearance of Marceline, who is not called the Vampire Queen in this one. She is called the Star.
Star.
And for anyone who doesn't already know, the Star is one of the major arcana that was not used in the Stakes miniseries. You have the Moon, the Empress, what the heck was his name? The Hierophant. And the Star. And that's Marceline. That's incredible.
The Fool.
Yeah. I'm almost mad at myself for when because they always put out the titles like a day or two before, and I didn't realize that title, and it seems really obvious in hindsight. But...
So something else Jagm said was that because Marceline is flying in this episode implies that she still killed the Fool.
Oh my god, you're right, and he doesn't show up in it. This is something that always happens in every universe.
Yeah. Well, all the other like head vamps are like dead now, because was it PB who said like the Star outlasted all the other Vampire King's court members or something?
Did she say that?
Yeah, PB said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
Wow. So it's just her and the king. That's why we don't see the Hierophant anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting when she was talking to the other vampires. She was like, Dad wouldn't like that. And I was like, so Vampire King is her father figure in this universe.
Oh yeah, you jumped straight to that. I mean, I assumed like Hunson just thought all this is cool and is encouraging it or something.
Hunson, you notice something, Jagm again, we need to link him. He pointed out that Marceline doesn't have her axe base, which means that Simon is the reason she met Hunson in the first place.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. You know, the whole opening, the like cold open in this episode where a big looming shadow finds her, like that's definitely the Vampire King, and like he took her in ever since then.
And Marceline is just so flirtatious. Yeah, she's so evil. She reminds me of her early season self if she was actually evil. She blows a kiss to PB and taunts her and calls her a loser, and she kills Martin for fun. Like, she doesn't just kill him, she sucks his soul first and then kills him.
And then Simon says, you know, you two are dating where I come from, and PB almost chops his head off.
Oh my god, I forgot to mention that scene. I loved that scene. It was like, where I'm from, you two are in love or fell in love, and I was like, oh my god.
And that is something that they were never able to say on the normal Adventure Time.
Yeah, I guess that was part of the reason why I was like full body chills at that. And also the delivery, obviously. Tom Kenny is just the best, but
imagine being
so
PB
nice.
And being told that your slightly homoerotic nemesis was your life partner in a different universe.
Imagine being an Adventure Time fan 11 years ago and having that clip sent to you.
That's true. Pretty much anything from the miniseries would be like, that's fake. Yeah, her outfit was so... Oh my god, I love it so much.
I mean, consistently, every design in the whole miniseries has been amazing. But definitely Marceline there, too, was super cool. Like, that's an extremely cosplayable thing. I hope people do that.
PB and Marcy, whilst massively fucked up by this universe, they're very silly characters. They're very funny characters. Like, PB still has her Timmy mug. She's still super, like, insecure and stuff. And she's still wearing pink, and the tank is Peppermint Butler. And like, I enjoy, and Marceline is just her old self, but evil, and I enjoy that bit of levity because a lot of this miniseries is just bleak. So having these fun characters involved makes it more enjoyable, in my opinion.
Agree.
Yeah, I mean, her name is Princess Bubblegum.
Yeah,
it's funny by default.
Well, except. I think her name is just Bonnie in this universe. She's not a princess, I think.
Yeah, her name is Bonnie Bubblegum because she doesn't have a candy kingdom.
She's still a princess to me.
I love the creativity behind the Vampire King using the crown to make it eternally night, just like controlling the clouds. I'm like, oh, that's a cool like little way to make him have a reason to be wearing the crown. It's also interesting, like, how unaffected he is by it. Like, I'm like, oh, that speaks to his, like, power, I suppose. He just does, like, he's normal with it on. It's just interesting.
Maybe he's not. Maybe there is something wrong. Maybe he does have a bit of the crown in his head.
I don't know.
Like, maybe, but I feel like if there was something, they would have, like, hinted to it a little bit. Like, he just...
You know, they made Ice Prince's sword. They made Ice Prince's sword look like the ice thing, to indicate that he still had a bit of a crown bug inside of him. And I think that the Vampire King, yes, you're completely right. He's more powerful than anyone else who has worn the crown. He appears to be immune to it. But there is no balance in this world. Because the Vampire King has the crown, it has lost all of its balance. So would that
Did they say that he made the cloud, like, from the crown's power?
Yes, they did say that.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he just had his own power that did that.
Yeah, that's why they travelled with Bonnibel, because they agreed to get the crown together. Also, like, it's unfortunate that their plan, like, PB's plan, was just going to fail from the get-go. It didn't fail because of Fiona and Simon or anything, even though they messed it up by getting Martin killed. But it was a bunk plan from the beginning. It was doomed. Because
Huntress couldn't do her part, you mean?
Yeah,
because you're up against the Vampire King.
It was kind of, yeah, I mean, I thought she was, like, because, like, she gave her the piece of gum, which was, I hated that. She just, like, bit her arm.
Oh, that was great.
It made me think, like, why haven't they done that kind of joke several times before?
Because it's
I swear they've done it at least once.
Well, here's the thing about that, is that when she did that, there was like 1 second where you could see some darker pink stuff under the bit of arm she ripped off, and that they couldn't do, I think, or they wouldn't have done in the main show. But her just like biting off a piece of her arm because it's gum, they absolutely would have done that.
Okay, but let's be real. Princess Bubblegum shattered into like 16 pieces in the season 2 finale.
True.
Like, you saw her.
I think she just had like meat inside of her, like, you know, like it's just like a circle for like a bone, like that's how it usually looks in cartoons. I think that's what it looked like in that.
Yeah.
Can you remind me of exactly like when that happened?
Mortal Recall. When Ice King froze her, she fell down and shattered, and then they couldn't, and all of the pieces of her had apparently been corrupted, so they could only make a tiny Princess Bubblegum.
That was wild. Okay, thank you.
When PB was like explaining the plan that failed to the others, she was like using Cake's head as like a drawing board and made little figures out of her like stretchy skin, which is just like gross. But it's funny.
It's terrifying to think about, because like Huntress Wizard, it's like he was asleep. All she had to do was like, 'cause she obviously is a really good shot. She just had to shoot a gum arrow at the crown, yank it off. But then it's just like he probably just like caught the arrow midair while he's sleeping and just fucking destroyed her.
Okay, so
It's
here's something.
terrifying.
Did anyone else think that the Vampire King was dead? Because we saw him a couple times in the episode before he started fighting, and he was just like sitting completely still.
I didn't think that, but when I was watching with Dom, she was like, I thought he was just dead the entire time.
I thought he was dead, and Marceline was just, using him as a figurehead to, like, reign over the world.
I mean, I guess that's an interesting idea, too. But if he died, wouldn't Marceline... Like, would she automatically become the next king? Or that? I guess that's not how it works?
I guess she would become... It's hard to say because the specific nature of how he died in the original show, he turned her at exactly the same time that he died. But she might die because she's one of his. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But, gosh, Marceline... first of all, Huntress Wizard was impaled by her own arrows. So it's like he either shot her with her own bow, or he deflected all of her arrows.
That makes sense, because he did a kind of a force push on Simon, too.
Yeah, he just killed her with her own equipment. It's sad. It wasn't that gory, though. I'm glad that it wasn't that gory, because it's like, he's this sad moment of failure. But also, Marceline's scene, we need to talk about Marceline's scene in the bedroom, because that was incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, Tulip, what were your thoughts on that?
Oh, I don't know. It was just... Well, first of all, gay. Why didn't you just kill her? And she got so mad about that. And then she kills one of the minions. And then the other one, like, kills itself. It's dark. It's dark, but it's a good joke. I laughed at it.
They didn't, like... okay, so I didn't mention, like, Cake biting the heads off the vampires earlier in the episode, because even though it was messed up, it was, like, a level of messed up that Adventure Time would do normally, right? She just bites their heads off and they explode. That is Adventure Time violence right there. In this scene, you see their necks distort as they tether off their heads. It's a bit scary. But, yeah, they just kill... The second one just kills himself before Marceline can do it for him. But the reason it kills itself is because the first one asked why Marceline doesn't kill PB already if she's such a pain. And Marceline's like, are you questioning my orders? And her eyes turn red and fiery like in the early episodes. Because she doesn't have the answer for why she doesn't kill PB. She doesn't know. It's like they have this hate, they have this kismesis ship going on, they have this hate romance going on, and neither of them has like the...
They just can't stay away from each other.
Yeah, exactly, they're so obsessed. Like, she doesn't kill PB, she always kills one of PB's subordinates instead, to taunt her and cause her a loser, and blows her kisses. It's so gay.
And Simon watches on in despair.
Yeah. Because they have this conversation that I nearly forgot to mention, which is that Simon and Fiona realises, as Simon describes how he raised Marceline, Fiona realises that perhaps this was a Marceline that never had Simon.
Oh my god, that line. I was like, hit me in the gut.
Maybe she didn't have a you, and then Simon replies, she didn't have a me. He's really broken by that. And, like, Simon's entire character is... He starts off this miniseries not understanding his own worth.
No. He, like, wants to help her, even now.
Yeah, and that's another strength to this miniseries. Even though you have these horrible, violent, Rick and Morty style Doom timelines where everyone dies, the characters still... The main characters still feel for all of these doomed people. They see them as the actual people. And Simon really wants to help this version of Marceline, even though he can do nothing for her because he was never her father in his world.
But also, like, he probably helps him put it into perspective, like, because he's like, I'm useless, and he's like the difference that he made in her life, like how much self-worth that must give him, hopefully, like, or at least have him feel something in that regard. I love that conversation.
Yes. And then they leave some garbos behind, and one of the ones that Fiona was handling turns into a normal garlic, and that raises questions, I think, because the Garbas aren't magic, are they?
They're magic. They're Princess Bubblegum tech, so they're probably a little bit magical.
I guess, like, I mean, it's also, like, it could just be, like Fionna and Cake are turning things, like, their most basic, boring self. It doesn't have to be, like, getting rid of magic. It could just be,
it's like us turning things into the versions of those things from their world as it currently is.
I mean, not even just that, too. It makes sense from, like, a Golb perspective. Like, not that we know any connection with that, but, like, that's what Golb does when he eats stuff.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. It turns it into its most basic self.
Who knows?
I didn't think about that. Smart boy.
But yeah, in the next episode, something that's also, by some definition, non-magical gets turned into an everyday object from Fiona's world. So I think you're on the money that it just happens to everything. They turn into the Fionna and Cake world version of itself, not necessarily just a non-magical version of itself.
I'm trying to, like, so where are we now? We're on the final.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Towards the end of the episode, there's more and more Gary and Marshall scenes spliced in, with lots of human background cameos. Once again, thank you, Jagm, to pointing many of those out. He's very smart at finding Easter eggs and stuff. But one of the ones that I clocked on my first time through was, like, Bandit Princess and Keoth hanging out together.
Oh, I couldn't tell who the other person was. That makes sense that it's Keoth.
Honestly, I think Magic Man and Maja are the only ones that I had time to actually notice.
I did a lot of pausing.
Yeah. Which Magic Woman being there and, you know, wearing the outfit with the hat and everything is kind of funny, I think, because, like, previously we had seen Magic Woman's hat around just the city, I think, and I kind of thought that was maybe some kind of subconscious Betty reference, but she's just, like, here. I don't know. Maybe she, you know, she's at this big business conference with Ms. Abadir.
So let me clarify. It was a hotel. There was Magic Man hotels, Magic Woman hotels. So it makes sense that she's here because, just like Abdia, she has a great big business, and in this case, it's the hotel business.
Well, there was that, and then there's also, in this episode, we see, like, a hat rack with the Magic Man hat on it, but then also in the same building, she's walking around wearing her hat also. She's got a lot of hats.
It's trendy. The trendy hat, everybody has one.
And of course, there's a humanized version of Grid-Face Princess, which I have to mention because I love Grid-Face Princess.
Oh yeah, I caught that one too.
So Abadir begins her speech about Marshall Lee, and Marshall's like, please don't. And then she talks about how Marshall Lee has made a lot of mistakes, lots and lots of mistakes, and is going to be joining her on her empire. And Gary's watching this, and he hasn't known Marshall for very long, but he can tell that he's being shit-talked and forced into doing something that he doesn't want to do. And that it's because, and then he finds out it's because of his bakery idea. And you get this moment, which is juxtaposed with Simon confronting the Vampire King. Simon yells, "Vampire King, you are a bad dad!"
Yeah, I love that.
And at the same time, in circumstantial simultaneousness, whatever Kim calls it, Gary says, "Miss Abadir, you are a bad mom!" And it's like, it's in some ways, the events of the Fionna and Cake world are influenced by what Simon's viewing at any given moment. But this was just this whole parallelism of the two worlds. Whilst you have Bubblegum and Marceline fighting to the death in one world, you have a thematically relevant situation in the Fionna and Cake coffee shop AU, where Gary and Marshall are getting closer and closer. And I think...
Yes, oh my god. And PB and Marcy fell off their big dome, and, you know, they're trying to kill each other, but Marcy says, like, if you stake me now, you'll die too, because they're falling, obviously, from a great height.
Together, then!
And then it just cuts away to the boys kissing. And, like, the episode ends.
Yeah.
Do you think that she staked her there? Like, I thought that was the implication.
I feel like the kiss has got to be a parallel to them, like, killing each other in a classic gay tragedy kind of way.
It's Yuri.
Yeah.
But we don't see it happen.
I mean, that's fine. I like that we did.
No, I like it. I like it as an artistic thing. But, you know, it's ambiguous. Maybe they survived and they ended up in a happy relationship.
It's like Farmworld. The same thing happened in Farmworld, right? Finn got smashed into the ground, and we didn't linger around long enough to see if everything was fine for him. In this case, it appears that we have a Yuri tragedy on our hands, whilst the boys are kissing happily. And I agree there. They left it ambiguous because it's more emotional that way. It would be, the moment might be ruined if you actually see them die, because seeing someone die is kind of jarring in its own way.
Yes. It was perfect. It was perfect the way it is. You know, the normal boys had their gayest moment kissing, going down the elevator, and the fucked up girls had their gayest moment just, like, mutually killing each other while falling.
Yeah, exactly. You get it.
I have to clarify, they went up the elevator.
Yep.
It's very important because the promo art showed them hanging out on top of the building, so they did a Kingdom Hearts moment.
Oh, you're right. Like, the promo art shows what they did at the end of the episode. That's so cool.
Yeah. We left out before all that happens. Cake was trying to steal the crown, and Fiona wouldn't let her, because Fiona's starting to freak out. Like, okay, like, we're actually gonna get hurt. This is not okay. And, messes up Cake's attempts, and also a great line, which is Vampire King sees her and she says, "You're kind of hot." You got chicken feet or whatever. It's so good. Yeah.
So, assuming PB and Marcy are dead, which is likely, you may wonder, is Vamp World another doomed world then? And I think the only reason Baby Finn, like, the only reason for Baby Finn being there is maybe that, you know, he's going to grow up and he's going to kill the VK and save everyone eventually.
He's going to be raised by Peppermint Butler Tank. He hasn't got a Jake or anything. He's just going to be a monster.
That was what I was going to bring up. I was like, you know, like the Finn running in the intro, like, I don't think babies could sprint like that. I'm pretty sure the implication is that he grows up and becomes a vampire hunter. So my new Baby Finn theory is that we're going to get a classic montage at the end of this series, and it's going to show, like, what the multiverses are up to at the end, and one of the shots is going to be Finn being a vampire hunter. So that's my new...
I really hope that, and I have, like, a crack theory. Like, if that does happen, I have a small crack theory about the following episode, and how that would be shown in the montage. But I think it would be really sweet if we do get a moment where we review all of the universes that appear to be bleak and desolate, and we see how they have rays of hope.
That's like they have. That's like the entire miniseries. Like, you know, that's like the theme of the entire miniseries. So they'll probably do that.
And if they don't do it, I'm going to be asking, what was the point of all of that? Because what is the point of showing these bleak multiverses instead of, you know, something more fun and engaging? Like, you know, we could have had any sort of world. We could have had a robot world or a peppy world, where all of the characters are peppies. Imagine that.
They went to a baby world for like 15 seconds.
Yeah, the baby world. We should get like a shot of the baby world, and Jake is just really sad because Finn's gone.
All right, well, I don't like that. It's just funny. It shows the difference between Tipsy and I's taste, because I'm, like, gobbling up all the sad worlds and bleakness. I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. And, like, I love the episode, but still, like, the Ice Prince episode was probably my least favorite, and that's, like, your favorite. And I'm like, whoa, we're opposites.
To me, dark moments are accentuated when lightness shines beside them.
Yeah. So quickly, before we move on, the end credits of The Star shows Fionna and Cake dreaming about Marceline's house in her cave, but it's, like, upside down, and it's got bat wings. And I don't know what that means. You know, a lot of the notes I wrote down in this are like, what does that mean?
Oh,
and that's all I'm really saying. But, like, I don't know, it's a symbolic representation of Marceline. Obviously, it's her house. but it's not like someplace she'd ever been to in the Star universe.
Yeah, it's like an abstract version of Marceline's house that Fiona probably dreamt of back when she was in the Land of Earth.
Do you think that's what all the credit dreams are? That those were just things Fiona and Cake dreamed about, like they had the Ice Prince dream in the first episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like seeing like Simon fuzzy memories and putting their own spin on them, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, that makes sense. I like that. Because I started thinking about it this time, and I was like, oh man, they're not gonna. There's no way they would, but I really hope it doesn't end up as some kind of it was all a dream ending.
No, they would never. They would never. I say as I sweat and look at the camera.
I'm gonna be real, they might tease that idea. Like, they have gone back into the normal world after all. Maybe they'll play with that idea, and then they'll remember what actually happened and want to do something about it.
Sorry, say everything you said again to me, because I wasn't listening.
Oh,
thank you.
Screw you! I'll repeat
No,
myself.
it was because I was reading my notes for the next episode to check something, so I was distracted. Say it again. Thank you.
I can't, I've already forgotten what I said.
What? It's been like 4 seconds!
I'm sorry!
Does anyone else remember?
Sorry,
No?
Chen, you'll have to
Okay,
listen to
let's-
the podcast to find out.
Jesus, okay. Never mind, move on.
Jerry.
Jerry. Jerry is my dog's name, for the record.
Oh, no. Oh my god. First of all, I love the, I live for, like, quiet talks by a campfire. I love Fiona and him talking. It was really, really cute.
Mm-hmm.
I was eating it all up. And, oh my god, all the Betty scenes.
So, as this episode begins, we see Fiona, Cake and Simon teleporting using the fairly broken controller into a different world, a very special world. One that has existed for a long time and that we know about from the series.
Technically, yes, although, man, I never, thought about it before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it took me like a second.
People got me thinking about that too, and now I'm like, this is even cooler than I thought it was originally.
Yeah. Like, I didn't realize it on my first watch. Like, I kind of did, but, like, not, like, the exact connections, I guess. Because, again, my first watches are, like, my brain is emotionally scrambled, and I basically remember nothing. Like, someone's like, oh, I love that episode. BMO is so cute. And I'll be like, BMO was in that episode? No, I wouldn't actually, but, like, it's, like, stuff like that. I'm so scrambled.
So
But,
everyone who's listening to this podcast has seen the episode. We can say that the premise of this is it's the world where everyone's dead because the Lich wish for it.
Yep.
Yes.
So, you don't know it at first. You're like, this is some weird desert world where everything is bone or something. Even the house. And when I first saw the tree house, I thought it was the Farm World house for some reason, which makes me think that the Farm World house is the tree house.
Maybe.
But we saw Finn and Jake's tree house. It was also made of bone. It also turned into a skeleton, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
on my second viewing of this episode, I went insane seeing the title card because it just says Jerry and there's some electric sparks coming off it, which is what happens at the end of the episode when Simon's remembering Betty and the portal opens and we don't know what happens next. It's right here in the title card. It's foreshadowing.
Well, that's Michael DeForge. Is that right? Yeah, Michael DeForge's art. This is the title card of the episode. And Cake is pissed. So pissed. Because she was so close to nabbing the Ice Crown from the Vampire King. And if she'd nabbed the Ice Crown, then not only would that world have been saved, they'd also have the Ice Crown. And they would be able to put it on Simon and curse his poor little brain and go back into their world as a magical master world. But you begin to see these great divisions between Cake and Fiona in this episode. Because Fiona's getting a bit messed up by these horrible adventures they've been through and how everyone is getting hurt. She feels bad for it, which I can appreciate because she should. But it's in the escapism
she's realizing what's real.
Yeah,
and she's come around in this one on realize. Well, not only does she not want to hurt bystanders, she doesn't want to curse Simon because that would hurt him too.
Yeah, and she's starting to like when she and Cake first heard about Simon's plan, they didn't realise, they didn't understand what that would mean for Simon because he never told them. But now that they've met him and they found out he's actually like pretty cool, or at least Fiona has, she listens to his backstory throughout the episode as well. And connects with him because Cake is so distant from her right now and doesn't want to talk to her. He's the only one she can talk to. And you really see some character development because at the beginning of this miniseries, Fiona was like Finn. She was given a sword and told that she's from a magical world, and she was like, awesome, let's kill some people. But she's going through his character arc on Fast Track.
Yeah, no. It was funny when Simon started saying the story and she said, "You're right, it is boring." I was like, I swear to God, Fiona, you better let him finish. And I'm so glad she was like, just kidding. Okay, yeah. I was like, thank God.
There's a moment very early in this episode that I want to talk about. And that's when, they're starting a fire and Simon uses the Mleh magazine from Fiona's backpack as, kindling. And he says, well, so much for art. And that, there is no way that's not intentional, because the whole Bleh episode of the original series was about, coming to terms with the series ending, basically. And then with this being a, reboot of the series, and obviously Simon and Fiona are sitting here, and that was a Finn and Ice King episode. So it's alternate versions of both of them in a way, kind of, and an alternate version of Bleh. And he's burning it and saying, well, that sucks.
I would have never picked...
I really hope they're not saying that, continually reviving Adventure Time back from the dead every few years is if killing its soul or something. I hope that's not what they're saying, because I'm enjoying this,
If that was Adam Muter's opinion, then he should stop pitching revival series to Cartoon Network.
Yeah. If it was anybody's opinion, this show wouldn't be as fucking good as it is.
I think it's a lighthearted joke, because the old episode, like you said, was about, the show being over, and they're it comes to terms with it or whatever, but this, they're like, never mind. We're burning this. It's more of a lighthearted never mind. I don't think it's, weird. I don't think the creators are, we're gonna, so much for what we've... I don't know. It's not as bleak as you're making it sound.
I don't want, I don't like that interpretation, but it's the only one that makes sense to me, with all the context.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was because it was the last piece of art in that universe.
Yeah, maybe we're overthinking it.
But, it's Bleh. That's gotta mean something.
Well, I think it's just because he's burning a book. I think that's it. That's the end of the joke.
I have my suspicions. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tipsy. Listen, that's all I took it as, but it's interesting to hear what Tulip's saying.
No other Adventure Time podcast is going to have this discussion, so we're that's how deep we're into it.
BMO.
No.
It's it's the same feeling for me of seeing him in the finale, just this distant, I don't know, different. I mean, it wasn't bleak in this finale of the show, but just having this familiar character. And also it's interesting because it's Fiona and Cake are oh, who's this? But Simon is being reunited with someone he knows, and he's so happy to see him, and I'm oh my God, he's so cute.
They chose BMO for a specific reason. The only reason I can see BMO being the character they bump into in this world is because BMO is such a ray of sunshine. And also, BMO is always the last survivor in the main show. When everyone else has been dead for 1,000 years, when the world has moved on, BMO remains and continues to be the exact same. And even here, in this world where everything has been destroyed, BMO continues to exist as, again, the final ray of light in this dark, desperate world. And that ray of light gets destroyed. I have a lot to say about that moment, but that ray of light gets destroyed. And that's BMO's purpose in the episode, to show just how dark and desperate this world is by contrasting it with his own personality.
Yeah. Also, BMO's like classic play acting, sort of delays the realization of what world they're in.
And even like, how this all happened, it makes sense that BMO would be immune to that. So it's like it just works in a lot of ways.
Shouldn't only ever robots be immune as well?
Was Nepter immune?
Dude,
is Nepter okay?
I wrote that as a note. I wrote, "Is Nepter dead?" in capital letters. It's just so, I don't know.
Miffle and Mary joked that BMO probably killed Nepter or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Just like started killing Nepter, and he's like, "No, Nepter, it's for the play. Like, we're just playing around." As like Nepter's being smashed, is like, "No, just stay in character."
Yeah, that is something BMO would do, I admit.
Yeah. Yeah, in their treehouse, there's a little sticky note that says "BRB Finn," reference to Temple of Mars. Not the only one, or was it Blanaz?
It was first of all, it was the first investigation, and then it was talked about in Bananas.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was a whole little arc at the end of the series, but I think he left that in Temple of Mars. And anyway, not the only reference to that episode in this episode.
I mean, he has to have, because if we're going with the theory that this is season 5 world, then he couldn't have done it later. I thought that was the whole point. I thought he did it earlier.
Yeah, he just used to leave a bunch of BRB notes.
I mean, the like in canon, implications of this is, this is just something Finn does. He did it earlier as well.
Yeah.
But the first time we saw it in the show was very late.
This is not something I remember at all, so,
I couldn't remember if he did that, like, when they were going to, like, Prismo's time room or something around those episodes. But,
he wasn't shown doing it, but that's always been his signature, and BMO has, like, a huge collection of their Be Right Back notes taken from over the years.
Yeah, well, that's cute. So they're walking and breaking my heart because BMO's excitedly telling Cake about Jake. And, like, she's like, "Do you have any more stories about the dog me?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh my god, stop, please." And then we're back to Simon and Betty again.
Yeah.
I love his presentation.
I know, the like, slideshow jokes are so funny.
That, and also, like, imagine, like, I guess being hired or accepted to, like, do, like, a presentation at a library and having the employee being like, "Do you really believe in this shit?" I was like, oh my god. They're still laughing at him.
There are any magic beans, and he showed a picture of the magic beans from the pods.
Oh my god, yeah, and then there was like the lamb from the show and the wand of disbursement and everything. I'm like, oh my god, so many references.
And the ancient wizards from Wizard City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How did he get that picture? What was that drawn in?
He just drew it, and by coincidence happened to imagine exactly what they look like.
Listen, there's no way he drew it, because you just reminded me he drew Betty, and it was so bad at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, I guess he drew it with the stick and in the dirt, so it's not, like, exactly the best art medium, but, like, I like the idea that he's a horrible artist, so I don't know.
Yeah, and Betty, it turns out, was obsessed with Simon from day one.
It's true. She read all his work and all that stuff. I don't know. I liked their whole relation. Like, I feel like it all felt really natural anyway. Like, they weren't just like shoehorning them together. I thought they were adorable.
Yeah.
And
I just think overall, I mean, I've said this before about like romance in cartoons is so uncommon, but I mean, like, this is a romance between like adults, like what 30-ish or slightly younger adults. Like, it's just so surreal seeing this have such significance in a kid's cartoon. It's not anymore.
Yeah, like, it's very cute, it's very sweet, and it's also knowing where Betty's arc goes, kind of the beginning of her corruption arc as well.
Mm-hmm. this is jumping ahead, but I love later on when Fiona's like, oh, so you went on the bus with her? And he was like, what? No, why would I? Like, that's so interesting. Nobody's talking about that. I find that so interesting.
During that whole scene, the whole flashback part of that scene, I was like, get on the bus. The bus is gonna leave. You can talk to her on the bus.
You're so right. You're so right. And these scenes, and it's basically, Fiona's basically calling out right there. Like, Simon doesn't even realize how much Betty was sacrificing to, be with him. And he doesn't even consider doing, like, he's trying to sacrifice himself now, but he doesn't even consider, like, following her dreams. He doesn't think her dreams are as important.
Yeah, which is the other Temple of Mars reference, because that was the episode where we learned that Betty gave up a big expedition trip to be with Simon, and then everything spiraled out of control a little while after that.
Can I say that the continuity of this is incredible, because there's lots of like descriptions of Simon and Betty's first meeting in the show, and none of them are the same as the next, and this episode has all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, Fiona calling out Simon kind of, I mean, it's not like, he's secretly a bad person or anything. It's just like, I don't know, it's just considering things from another angle, right?
Yeah. I think it's so interesting because it's like,
and
people that don't...
in the next one, who knows?
People that don't have memory that much of like the main series or whatever, like, people that are just so ship happy for these two characters, they're going to watch all this stuff in this episode and be like, this is cute, I love it. But just that one line of like, why didn't you go on the bus with her? Like, that is such a perfect, very subtle, like, things aren't actually perfect with this romance. It's kind of a weird dynamic, but it's not even like it's like a problematic dynamic or anything like that. It's just like this.
No, it's just flawed, like, weird, normal like, people would be.
Yeah. And it's like, you can analyze that, or you could just watch it and be like, they're so cute. Like, this, I love wholesome, like, fulfilling romance stuff, which it is, and it can be both really, really well. And I feel like that doesn't happen often, where like it's either like there's a bunch of drama, it's usually either like, oh, Simon's like a bad boyfriend because he made her give up her dreams. It's like, no, it's kind of either way. It just depends how you're looking at it. Like, she willingly gave up her dreams, but then she's like, in hindsight, should I have? And it's like, just whatever. That's just how relationships are.
This is how the relationship has always worked. Betty's always been like, it's like she jumped to the future to give up everything for him, and he only contacted her in the past because he wanted to tell her that he forgave her for leaving him.
I love that shit so much.
And he just doesn't. He's not like a huge asshole or anything, but he's kind of self-centered. He's like any university professor. Just look at him. He's kind of self-centered, and it connects to how he's been this entire miniseries, just like Fiona and Cake. Simon is too focused on his own issues to understand how he's affecting the people around him. And he does have empathy for those people, and he cares about them, but he doesn't understand his own relationship to them. He doesn't even understand his own relationship and value to Marceline. He's really surprised when he sees that she did really badly without him.
He specifically says, like, he says, like, and I hurt her anyway or something in the main series. Like, is he just referring to, like, him being Ice King?
Yeah,
like,
I think
okay.
so.
I was like, is there something else other than that, or that I'm forgetting? Okay, anyway, continue.
So BMO takes them to the Ice Kingdom, and they watch some tapes, and Fiona's like, oh, this isn't good.
Yeah, even though the Everything Bagel song was a masterpiece.
Before they get to the Ice Kingdom, they walk past like Jerry's little hut thing.
True,
right?
yeah, they do.
So at what point did you guys like start realizing what the world was?
I thought it was post series finale, alternate timeline, Come Along With Me, where Gold wins.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't I think once we walked past Jerry's thing, I was like, I my only thought was like Lich, something Lich, because that would make sense for that to be where his well of power is. So like, this is some lich thing. And then, then we go further.
I was pretty head empty. I mean, obviously it's a world where everyone's dead, but I didn't connect it to the lore.
I was head empty too, and I went as far as to embarrass myself by being like, oh, Jerry might be alternate version Mo, because they both have normal names, and BMO said that Jerry fixes things, so that's where I was.
The order at which BMO says those statements is the main clue, really. BMO doesn't say Jerry showed up and everyone died. BMO says everyone turned into skeletons, and then Jerry showed up, which implies that they all died before he got there. And
speaking of everyone turning into skeletons,
yeah,
we do see that.
Hold on,
just a little
first
bit.
We have to talk about the Everything Bagels song, which is the best song I've ever heard. That's it. But
my point about that song that I've not seen anybody else point out. I Remember You is the episode that came out before the Lich Wish arc. So it makes a lot of sense for that to be one of the last tapes there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that, actually.
Boom, mic drop. Okay, anyways, keep on.
Yeah, but it wasn't in I Remember You. It was in oh god, you're right. Simon and Marcy just had their heart-to-heart and then he died. It wasn't in I Remember You, it was in much later episode, but it's possible that she started making that she used to sing that song all the time because it was her mother's song, and that's how Simon heard it, rather than after Stakes.
Yeah, my brain, for some reason, I was like, Everything Bagel, haha, that's Everything Stays from the hit episode I Remember You. No, that's literally in season 8. That's... Oh, okay. Well, yeah, but yeah, she sang that before. That's outside of the episode. Okay.
It makes sense. Not a plot hole. Another example of me being head empty in this episode is that I did not realize until I saw Jagm's post, thank you Jagm for pointing this out to me, that Fiona picked up the ice crown from the drum that he very clearly in the videotape said, I put the crown on the drum, see?
I'm so glad that you're head empty, because I also didn't. In fact, like, to skip ahead very quickly, when she took the crown out at the end, she was like, I got it at the ice place.
The Ice King place, right. I thought she meant, like, Winter King World somehow, and I was like, what do you mean?
I thought she meant Winter King, and I was like, I thought the crown deactivated, and I was like, what's the explanation behind this? I'm confused. It was so dumb. But, like, I saw the skeleton frame, and I more head empty, I was like, was that, like, some weird, like, haha, if you see it foreshadowing, like, everyone in this universe dies. And then, like, after the fact, when I read about the episode and, like, realized the implication of that is so fucking terrifying.
That is awful.
It is so eerie.
I know. First time through, I thought that must be some kind of Easter egg. That must be a glitch in the tape or something. But second viewing, when you know what's happening and you're seeing it happen, horrifying.
Something about the way they did it fills me with, like, this dread that I have not felt in, like, my entire life. Because there's no sound. It's completely quiet. They just cut to it. And it's, like, every single... And, like, BMO could have been having, like, breakfast with Finn and Jake, and then suddenly it's just, there's no sound. It's just, that's how it is now. Every single... And I'm like, oh my god, I don't like this
It wasn't even just Ice King and Gunter. The entire land would have turned white.
That's what I'm... And it's like, did they ever mention how much time has passed? Like, did BMO say anything, or I don't think so?
Well, presumably... I mean, I think every world we visited has pretty much been the same time period they're in regular OO, which is 12 years post-finale, which was like a few years post that episode.
It's probably been 15 years.
Well, like Ice Prince said he's conquered the crown 100 years ago, but that could have... I don't know. It's like... What I want to know is, like, I'm like, how long... Like, did BMO ever mourn, or is BMO just in heavy denial the entire time? You know, I'm just wondering about that.
I have, like, a continuity point. So, first of all, I completely agree. That was so horrifying. Like, it gave me, like... It messed with my head. It really has. That's just such a scary thing.
Yeah, I can't really... I like, can't explain why it affected me. I mean, other than the fact that it is so horrifying. Like, maybe I'm like... Imagine if I was in that situation where just every other person just turned into a fucking skeleton and you're the only one left.
This episode ruined my entire yesterday. Like, it ruined my entire yesterday. I was so upset after watching this episode. I was crying and everything, which sounds ridiculous because nobody else had that reaction, but...
That's not ridiculous. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's messed up. Like
it was so messed up. It was too messed up. Like, the skeleton thing is so messed up, and even that is difficult enough to bear with on its own. And like, I thought when I first watched it, I was a bit annoyed because I was like, this is clearly like in Finn's Lich stream where it's like, haha, everybody's dead. Here's a frame of them as skeletons in his video, and I didn't like that because I prefer it when Adventure Time is literal. What I realised after Jagm pointed out the whole crown thing is that it was literal. Like, the world died in less than a frame, and BMO was stuck in it, and that is just so horrifying. That's nightmare fuel. That's like new phobia, everybody. That broke my brain. It belongs in that would be a really interesting horrific horror movie concept, in my opinion.
Yes. My favorite genre is horror. I don't know how into horror you are, but like I said, I eat this stuff up. As horrifying as it is, I was like, oh my god.
Chan, I have like a poor mental health continence, so I avoid horror whenever possible. I don't mind some dark things, but I avoid horror whenever possible because it is just too much.
For me, like I guess we'll talk about this more later too with the BMO thing, but like, the fact that they did show it and how horrible it was, I think helps hammer the idea that we were talking about earlier home, which is like, you know, they could be silly and be killing all these people like, it's me, I'm season 1 Finn, but then it's just like the reality of it really hits. And like, this being like the extreme end of the reality just like really hits for me, I think. Especially because the show didn't do anything explicitly really like that before. It really, like, it's kind of like, I don't want to say anything about Steven Universe because I didn't watch it much, and I'm not going to be critical of other shows. But, you know, the common complaints of like, oh, the characters cry too much, so like when they cry it has less meaning. I kind of feel like it's like the fact that this is like this unique, very dark thing that happened this one time, like it hits really hard for me because it's not something they usually do. I don't take it like, oh, they don't usually do this, so this is bad. I take it as like, oh, this is good. Those are my thoughts.
That's how I feel too. And I also, like, I agree. I had the same sort of reaction where like there was just the freeze frame when you're watching, and I was like, oh, that's just like to be spooky. It wasn't until later on when people talked about the Wish stuff online where I was like, oh, and that to me, you know, from like a horror perspective, that does make it cooler for me too. Like I because I look at it all kind of creatively, I feel like. So it's just like the fact that they thought to make this kind of connection to do such a gruesome thing, I think is just awesome. Like it's like Tipsy says she was crying, but I was like laughing because I was like, this is crazy.
I knew you adored these episodes as soon as I saw them.
I know, and I mean, and it's just a perspective thing. Like because I'm seeing so many people online being like, this was devastating, like that was crazy. And meanwhile, I'm like, I can see why it's like that, but the fact that it's like that makes it so interesting to me. Like, to be able to create something that can make people feel like that, that's what I'm thinking about. Like, it's amazing that they were able to do that.
Yeah, and like it made me react as strongly as Together Again did, which is a very rare accomplishment, very rare. I can only feel that way about stuff I'm hyper invested in some way and get gun punched by. But yeah, I don't think that the skeleton, that everyone dying was bad per se, because like again, this world existed with Adventure Time, and I think if they could have gotten away with it, they might have done something like this in the main show.
Yeah. I'm not personally a fan of horror, the genre. I don't come to things to get scared of it. That doesn't sound appealing to me. But you know, when there's a real gut punch and something I happen to be enjoying for other reasons, you know, that can be fun. Like this sticks with you. And that's art, baby.
Also, you know, you guys are saying that this is like this is new fear unlocked for you. I think Adventure Time introduced me to the concept of nuclear war, and then I've just been scared of that every day of my life. Like, you know, Every day of my life, I wake up and I'm like, I could just fucking explode right now.
I have that, but with weather. For some reason, I'm scared of... One day there was a really bad storm where I live, and we don't get storms. I'm going on a tangent, but we're going to go on this tangent. I'm sleeping, and like there was like a sliding glass door. I think I was sleeping on a couch for some reason. Not relevant, but there was a sliding glass door, and like you could see outside. I wake up at like 6 a.m., and all I see is like white smoke or something, just wind just everywhere, like in this like not a tornado, but this like vortex out, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So I like run upstairs, and my mom and sister are like, get in the basement. I'm like, it's the apocalypse, it's here. But long story short, it was just a really, really bad hurricane in Rhode Island that I guess I didn't know about. But like in that moment, waking up, seeing the vortex, like I was like, I'm dead now. I've accepted my death. And like since then, I always think I'm gonna wake up and just have like catastrophic weather to take me, because it failed to take me that day.
That's why every day that we get a new Adventure Time episode is a great day.
That's right, folks.
That's interesting though, because like it's made me... Adventure Time is very therapeutic in my opinion, because it takes these dark concepts, like like the Umbrella Academy always has the apocalypse at the end of every season, and it's terrifying and nightmare fuel. So Adventure Time takes dark and terrifying concepts like being killed or the apocalypse, and it makes them seem like less of a threat. Like, even if...
I think it does. It normalizes those things a lot in a good way, which I agree with.
You guys, I'm like afraid this is going to be our longest podcast episode yet. We're not even done talking about this episode.
Should we talk about BMO and get through that bit as fast as possible?
Yeah. Okay, well, this is going to be sad, but I do want to say about that, right before it happens, my disappointment was renewed about this one specific thing, because when BMO opened up his front, I was like, is there a chance? Is there a chance that we're finally going to learn about the Princess Bubblegum battery in BMO? That was like a spoiler that we never learned about in the show, and then it didn't happen and he died.
Oh my god, imagine if that was the moment they did that. That would be insane.
We're skipping over two things that I have to mention in my notes really fast.
Yeah.
One of them being, I was head empty as well, Tulip. When I rewatched it, there's literally like a shot of Fiona looking at the drum and you can see the crown peeking out. And I somehow just didn't. I was just like, haha, drum. Like, I don't even know what I was thinking. And there's another joke that I wrote down, which I thought was really funny, which is they get to the Candy Kingdom, and she says she says something like, this place is made of candy, that's like one of my top 3 fantasies. And I'm like, she already said that when Cake could talk, and I'm wondering if we are ever going to learn the third one.
Oh.
Please, we need to know.
Yeah. Also, Cake was like, I'm going to go eat chocolate, which she would fucking die if she did that.
Yeah. And also, like, remind me again, when they're walking to the Candy Kingdom, like, did the Simon flashback get to, like, the news... or the car scene yet?
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah.
I didn't realize this, I guess, because fake fan, although, like, I don't know. I disagree, fake fan, if you didn't notice this, but, like, the fact that him getting out of the car is the newspaper clipping from the main show, and you can even see Betty in the car in the old thing. I'm like, oh my god.
That was what blew my mind. That was actually, like... that was, like, the one thing I saw spoiled for me before I actually watched these episodes. That picture would be involved somehow. So, I knew that it was happening when it was happening. But then after I watched the episode, I saw it again, and I was like, oh, Betty is there! She was there the whole time!
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Simon head, so, like...
Is that what they're called?
Right. Even when they were just in the car, I was like, this is gonna show that! I can't believe they're gonna connect that! That's so niche.
I need to, like, be more specific with my notes sometimes, because my next note is Dead World, like us going there now. That's all I wrote. What does that mean?
Talk about BMO. Do you have anything else to say about BMO?
Yeah, I thought that the death scene, this is my number one complaint to this series so far, because like I said, they chose BMO specifically because he's the ray of hope, but that meant that his death scene felt so mean-spirited and shocking for no good reason. Like, it's like, did it have to go like that? And when he first burnt to a crisp, I thought that he had, like, a brain inside of his monitor, and that grossed me out. That horrified me. I was not able to eat for, like, most of the day yesterday because of that scene. And I felt like they did that because he's the child mascot character, and they knew it would be funny and horrifying, and that removed me.
I disagree that that's why they did it. I really do. Like, one, I think it hammers the point home of how bleak the situation is. Like, you're so used to, like, there being a magic, like, you know, like, solution, and then it's like, shit, they literally don't have any other options left. But in addition to that, I think it served to show Simon how the ultimate sacrifice does not always work out. Like, he's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself to save Fiona's world, and like, that's, you know, BMO is like, I'm gonna do this for them, I'm gonna do this sacrifice thing, and it just doesn't work, and it's like, shit, like, maybe that's not always the answer. And I don't know, I don't think the creator's like, haha, kill BMO, that'll be, like, I just it doesn't seem like, I don't know, it really worked for me, and it does take you out of, like, what you, because I really was like, I don't know if you said this exactly, Tulip, but like the heart thing, I was like, oh my god, like, this is gonna be like a use for that heart we've always seen, like, maybe there is some magical properties, and like, maybe this, blah, 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 but it just doesn't work. And I'm like, and right after it, Fiona's like, this is my fault, and she's like, we're stuck here, and then you feel horrible, and it's like, yeah, that really hits, because,
no matter
like,
what, it was brutal.
It takes it, I agree.
And then it turns into the alarm clock, which is just like insult to injury. I don't know, man. That hurt me.
And it just, like, takes you, I don't know, it puts you in the same headspace as Fiona, and obviously it hurts and it's terrible, but, like, I think it does serve a narrative purpose other than, like, kill BMO, LOL. And it's horrible. I hate it.
I'm not sure. I really like that interpretation, because that gives it a purpose, which to this point I felt it had none. Like, they could have killed BMO in some other way that was less brutal and felt less like a, you know, a violence joke. Like, less like it was supposed to be a joke. I spoke to a lot of people about this, because this was my major hanging out point about the episode and retroactively the miniseries. And most of them agreed that it was too much, but they had different reasons for why they disliked it. So, a couple of people disliked it because BMO turned into an alarm clock afterwards, and that made it more of a joke. That removed them from the moment. Some people really loved it because they liked that sort of gore and violence. Some people really loved the episode but thought that scene was a bit weird and just ignore it. But yeah, it's like, it's a beloved character, it's a child character. Here's them dying horribly. When I saw that scene, my first thought was, if you contrast this with all of the other brutal violence that's been in the other episodes, it's like this series sort of gets off on being overly brutal in a way that I don't respect. And if it felt like, if Chan's point is correct, I feel like I didn't need that scene to happen I feel like it's not really connected enough. If that's supposed to be the point, then that should be connected to what Simon thinks later, but at the moment, they never drew that connection.
I just think, like, how jarring it is and how unnecessary it is, like, helps me feel the point of, like, the hopelessness that the world was, and also how Fiona felt after. Like, I was, like, really, like, it's like, it's working! Woohoo! They're doing it! And then it's like, holy fuck. And how brutal it was like, this just wasn't gonna work. And Fiona really fucked up with, like, not letting Cake take the crown. I don't know. It worked for me narratively, but I also respect your opinion, obviously.
Yeah, and I love that you have a completely different opinion, that you see lots of value in it. That, you know, like, because part of it is coloured by my own visceral reaction and what I think 80 should be. And, you know, my bias is against this miniseries being PG-14.
Yeah.
And, like, it's hard to, like, you know, I've never enjoyed mean-spiritedness in a TV show, but you don't think it's mean-spirited.
It's also a me problem because, like, when I like something and someone's like, I don't like it, it, like, hits me in the gut, and I'm like, holy fuck.
Like, I was really surprised that you loved these episodes. I was like, they're so bleak. Chan probably hates them. And then you loved them.
Like I said, I love, like, horror and, like, all of my favorite media is sad as fuck. Like, well, most of it. Like, I like exploring that, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay, so they're walking to Jerry's place, and Fionna and Cake start singing the Cheers theme, and Simon says, do you know any other songs? And that makes me wonder, what does he think of that? Like, does he have traumatic memories of being with Marceline? Like, is that...
absolutely.
Is that how he remembers that moment? Definitely, maybe. But also, his most recent experience with the Cheers theme would be like watching it every day at his museum job.
That's funny, actually.
He hasn't got
true.
any other tapes. He's only got Cheers.
That must be horrible for him, because, like, that was the song he sang to not lose himself to the crown when he's trying to protect Marceline, but also the song he hears at work every day. And what's more traumatizing than that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
And then they do the final Betty flashback with that other song by Half Shy.
Dude, first of all, oh my god, so good. Their work is so good, and also, they better fucking finish the song in, like, a final episode. They cut it, and I was like, hello? What are you doing? Well, I wanted to hear the whole thing so bad.
We'll definitely get a soundtrack released like we did with Distant Lands, at least.
I know, I don't care. We got the whole thing of, I love Cake on the Loose. It was cute, but we got the whole Cake on the Loose, but we're not going to get the whole that one. Come on. It's just, I don't know. I love that song. And there was some, like, really good lyrics in it. Like, there was, like, one of the, again, I've only seen this twice, and I remember it was like, what's love without a little tragedy? And, like, I never believed in myself like I believed in you, or something like that. But I was eating up all the lyrics, and I was like, I'm crying.
I also love in that scene that Betty is using a Walkman because, like, the mushroom war happened in 90s or early 2000s theory reigns supreme.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was cute. Oh, yeah, that happened after the last flashback? Did that happen after the last flashback? Because I have some notes on that, too. Hold on. Because this is, like, one of the best things I've ever heard in my entire life, is when he's reading the note he finds in that Betty left him. He's like, it was like the author was writing for an audience of one, his own ass. I was like, oh my god. It is so funny. It is so cute. It's just, I really feel like I'm in an alternate timeline. I really do. Also, really fast, Celebi from the Discord, as you're familiar, I rewatched with her yesterday, and she was the one I talked to. She like told me that the BMO sacrifice thing. I give her credit for that. I forgot to do that, so yes, credit. The
BMO sacrifice podcast.
I love that. I love that she's like, Betty already left, but you might be able to catch her at the bus stop, and the bus stop was like 3 feet. Yeah. So it's just like, oh, okay.
He didn't have to run or anything. He just was there.
So then they meet Jerry.
Dude,
when the Lich was teleported, he didn't even get to participate in, like, the death and destruction. I always pictured season 4 Lich World of Death. Okay, yeah, so I don't know if we clarified this, but in season 4, the Lich made a wish for the extinction of all life and got teleported to that world. Then Finn made his wish for Farm World, and it was believed that both worlds were erased by Jake making his wish to stop the Lich making his wish, but apparently both of them remained. Prismo probably just said that to make them feel better. But he didn't even get to participate in the extinction of the world. He just arrived here and has had no purpose ever since, and hasn't even got the willpower to kill Simon and Fiona.
He used the game shark in real life. Am I right, gamers?
That's right, gamers.
But I mean, it was like he was so proactively trying to get the Enchiridion too, though. So it's like he knew that's how it was going to be. He was just like, this is my last resort because Finn already beat the shit out of me.
Well, while he's working on it, that's his entire purpose. He doesn't need to like second guess it.
Yeah.
But after it's done, that was his entire purpose. What now?
I do love the like. I think it's a very, very different kind of terrifying to have neutral Lich. Just like, like he's depressed, but like, and like he's still when they first see him, he hits them with the cease, and then it's like the same thing as the fall from the main series. I'm like, oh my god.
This one, I don't really like. What does cease mean in this context?
Cease? It just means stop.
Stop. Just don't move forward.
Okay, but then they do anyway.
I mean, I think they froze in place, and then he dragged them forward. So like they were.
It looks like he just made them fall over.
I mean, they were about to run, and
he just did it for kicks.
Yeah, he just thought it would be funny.
Yeah,
for the Vine.
And speaking of neutral Lich too, I mean, it's like, you know, vaguely similar to how, in the Citadel episode, he was just chilling in Prismo's place for like a year.
It's so scary. During the parties too, right?
Simon made the same mistake that Prismo made, which is, what is the one thing that you shouldn't do in front of a neutral Lich? You shouldn't give him a portal to a dimension where he can fulfill his purpose.
Oh.
Well, who knows?
I actually didn't think about that. Do you think I thought his story was over there. I thought he was still just like neutral, and he's just like.
I mean, we'll see. It was a very, very fast moment, so it's like it could lead into.
I thought he was like they'll be dealt with by Golb essentially, but we failed to mention. By the way, Scarab meets Bandit from Bluey.
Yeah.
We're too old for that.
Hold on, because I just one last thing is that like about Cease is that, you know, in any other context with the Lich, you think that would mean like die. I mean, obviously it's not. But that was my first association, like, whoa, what did he just do to them? And then it was basically nothing. But anyway, yes, we haven't even discussed Scarab's whole plot in this episode.
I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot. Why does when I saw Orbo, I was like, holy hell, Prismo's boss looks exactly how we imagined.
Yep.
And then
I love Orbo.
And then Orbo says like, the boss, and I was like, there's so many bosses.
And I think that's such a funny, because like,
they're so teasing it. They've got to show him in like the last episode or something. They've got to.
Yeah, and like it was such, to begin with in the show, Prismo's boss mentioned a single fucking time, so it was already a really subtle thing. But it's like kind of one of the only remaining super mysteries that could have an answer, and they know that, and that's why they're treating it in this like jokey way of like, oh, who is he, guys? Who is he? Like, and they could still not show him. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, but they must. But I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't either.
There's no way that this is the case, right? There's no way that this is the case. But it would be so funny if Prismo's boss's boss was Golbetty. Because then the Scarab would just be like calling him and be like, yes, the boss! I need to tell you about this insolent universe! And then Golbetty just nukes him.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Like that's still technically possible, but I don't think so. Especially because, you know, Simon reminded us that the Lich is the last scholar of Golb.
Whatever that means.
If that's true, then how could Golb be the boss of a whole other organization or something?
Yeah. I think, too, something that TikTok comments have pointed out to me, thank you, TikTok, is, like, the idea, too, of, like, in the grand scheme of this multiverse, Golb could be, like, the Satan. Like, so, like, all these time people and all that, Prismo, the boss they're working for is, like, the heavenly figure. And it's, like, Golb is even against all of them, too.
That actually makes sense because of the phones. The phone that rang had like an angel and a demon motif on it. But
and also, by the way, Scarab saying, "You're my boss, but you're not the boss."
Yeah.
Why don't I give them a call? They, them, Prismo's boss confirmed.
I'm all for the theory that Prismo's boss is just gonna be Adamuto.
Yes.
Like, I think that would be the fucking funniest thing in the world.
It's gingerbread meat from the Candy Kingdom, inexplicably.
That would be hilarious.
So Lich stuff happens. Something I wanted to talk about that I think is a really cool concept that they're exploring is like Prismo is like everyone loves him and he's this cool guy, which is also really funny because they excuse anything he does.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, he's cool. But I also like Scarab questioning that, like, Prismo has all this power and he's being so casual about it, and that is legitimately a dangerous combination. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I never really thought about that too because I was like, nah, Prismo's cool.
Yeah, but Scarab is also dangerous because the only reason
I know.
The only reason he wants to like get Prismo fired is so that he can have the power to himself. So Prismo being cool about it is actually like, okay, yeah, he's bad at his job, especially now that he's depressed about Jake dying, but he's also like safeguarding the time room by being its master and being the man that he is.
Yeah, I'm not saying Prismo like shouldn't be him, like shouldn't have his position, but I just think it's an interesting like look at like all these silly characters, and it's like, oh yeah, like there could be real consequences to being so casual about all those things. But yeah, I'm not saying Scarab's a good replacement. That's like the opposite end of the pendulum swing.
Yeah.
I think.
Like, you know, beginning of this series, Simon was trying so hard to summon Betty back or whatever, and he got Fionna and Cake instead. And this time, he's trying to send Fionna and Cake back into their world. You know, by doing that, the memory of Betty causes a spark, and he opens the portal to Galb accidentally. And the Scarab is also there.
Is that... I thought specifically the Lich sent them. Do you think Simon did it?
Yeah, Simon did it.
Like,
He thought of Betty in his final moments, and that caused the crown to spark. Because the crown
I think I called it. Betty is not gonna let him put on the crown, and that's why this portal is opening right now.
Yes.
Man, I totally like misunderstood that scene. Whoops.
No,
Yeah,
I mean
thought...
that scene's chaos on purpose, though. So you know, it's like,
Gulp.
like the Lich being there, like is something. Like what is, because you know the Lich works for Golb or whatever. Like it's all still complete total mystery, but it could be answered so easily once the next episode starts.
I thought like him being the catalyst made him be able to influence the ritual, and like was like, I'm gonna send them to Golb for a specific reason. But it's also kind of funny that when he's trying to summon Betty, he summons Fionna and Cake, and when he's trying to do Fionna and Cake, he does Betty.
Yeah.
Also, just really quickly, oh my god, like his plan was to become Ice King in this dead world and live forever in a world with nobody, just so Fionna and Cake's world wouldn't die.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that is so messed up. That's the only reason Fionna even gave him the crown, because it was the only way that any of them would survive.
Yeah, but I mean, he would have just turned into Ice King. And it just, like, Ice King would have been fine, you know? Simon would be gone to a degree, like, Ice King wouldn't care.
I think he would, though. He would be lonely.
Yeah, Ice King isn't
You
just,
make
like...
snowmen. I don't know. He can do that stuff.
I feel like Ice King would make, like, dirt gunters and just, like, be fine.
And anyway, you know, Fionna saying, like, everybody dies eventually. It's okay. We can just stay the same. And Cake having that conflict of like, but I'm me right now. I don't want to be not magic anymore. And like, that's interesting. I wonder if, you know, going back to their world, you know, we predicted it's probably going to remain non-magical, but I wonder if, you know, they're going to bring just a little bit of magic back into it.
I mean,
like Cake is still going to be anthropomorphic and everything.
I feel like they will, because it's like, you know, it's like the way the characters are developing. It's like, because she's like, Cake was like, you hated everything about that world. She was like, not everything. And it's like, it's about being happier and with what you have and all that. But also like, specifically that line, Fionna, I have a direct quote because I loved that line. She says, everybody dies. Shouldn't they get to die as themselves? And I was like, oh my god.
That was an amazing line. And I like that Cake is conflicted and it's not like a black and white thing. Like, if they go through with it, Simon loses his mind. If they don't go through with it, Cake remains non-magical. How do you compromise with that? How do you... And I think the only solution is to separate... Fionna doesn't even want to really destroy the coffee shop world. What is the compromise? What do? Do they bring some magic to the world, but not a lot of it? And I think that's why I was like, maybe it would be more interesting if they brought Bimo with them, rather than Bimo dying. Because that would be more wholesome for a start, but also, like, they'd have, like, an actual Bimo instead of the clock, and then at the end, you'd have the series ending, like, in a loop. When Fionna wakes up, it's actual Bimo that wakes her up instead of alarm clock Bimo. Bimo could still turn back into actual Bimo if all of the magical changes are reversed. Like...
Yeah, what if like, what if them turning BMO into the alarm clock technically saved BMO, because instead of like this ash pile, they turned him into like his basic components, and then if something happens later, maybe BMO will be okay.
Huh.
Oh my god. Yeah, that would be...
Well, what if when they return to their normal world, then they, because they were in the multiverse or something, they start touching things and they become magical?
Aw, that'd be cute. That's the interesting thing about this series for me is like, I don't know how they're gonna end it, and it's usually like you can tell where things are going.
Is Gall Betty gonna do something?
I'm so curious, like, and like what Gall Betty, like how she even will act, like how much of that is Betty, how much of that is Gall.
Exactly,
like...
that's still such a big question, because I posted some TikToks about like Gall lore, and a bunch of people are just saying like everybody has a different opinion on what actually happened with that wish that she made. So we'll finally actually understand it. And I just want to point out too that in the show's intro we see future Ooh and we see Fionna and Cake's world like on fire. Those are two things we haven't seen happen yet.
What?
And that's it.
We do?
Yeah, that's true. The intro has like Fiona's apartment like being like it's a piece of film being burned.
Oh.
I just I have faith in the writers, but I'm semi nervous / looking forward to like Gall Betty's appearance, because like Gall was so terrifying originally, and like it'd be weird if Gall Betty was just like Betty with an echoey voice, which I don't think they do. But it's like, how are you going to preserve the terrifyingness of Gall, but also be like, this is also
just
Betty?
Look at what they did to the Lich in this episode. He says like two things. Like they'll know what to do.
I predict they will not answer all our questions. I think it's going to remain somewhat ambiguous.
Yeah.
But we'll get a hint about what's going on in there.
Yeah, and I'm very excited.
What would be a really funny ending, and I don't want this to happen, is if, like, Fiona World, is burning down, and they, like, save only the important characters, and then, the gender swap characters just come out of Simon's head and live in Ooh.
Dude. I have some final thoughts that I must share. One of them being commending Tom Kenny's voice acting for the 80,000th time.
Yeah,
specifically when he's doing the Gulb ritual saying reveal the path and grant me passage, he says it with such like more conviction and calmness. Like in the beginning he was like very like desperate, and you can really hear it in the tone. Like I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. But some like implications of the episode that I talked about yesterday with Dom and Cell were BMO being like, Jerry's really funny and all this stuff, like implies that BMO multiple times went to hang out with the Lich, which I think is terrifying and also cute, but also the Lich's beard is braided, which might imply BMO braided his beard.
Oh my god!
And I look back at it, I'm like, wait, yeah, right? Like, I don't think the Lich is sitting there braiding his beard.
Did BMO take off his pants as well?
Oh, I don't know. What do you think about that? But, like, all the skulls that the Lich is sitting on, I was like, did the Lich, like, go and collect everyone's skulls? But then I was like, what if BMO collected skulls for the Lich? Like, it's just all these little things that could have happened. I'm just, like, can't stop thinking about them. But the braiding beard thing, I can't stop thinking about it. That's all I got.
That is adorable.
Man.
Yeah. Anything we missed other than Bandit saying "say goodbye to your legs" to scare?
Right, so let's end it there then. I have not much else to say. I've already given like a sort of critical review. Within the
agreed.
episode.
I love the darkness. I love the production value. This has all been really great, and I expect the ending to also be great.
Then once again, thanks Chan for the intro and Tipsy for the thumbnail art. There's only 1 week left of Fionna and Cake.
Oh, God.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I've been living, and I'm like, we're back, and now we're leaving.
No!
We're not back anymore. It's not okay. Goodbye.
Bye.
And we'll see you then. Bye.